Hello everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today we are of course continuing to discuss The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and what I wanted to do is break down some of the marketing that we've seen around the game and what I think Nintendo's overall strategy might have been, because of course it's been fairly divisive and a lot of people have not been happy with their marketing, but I think after the release of this last main story trailer, we've seen evidence that actually Nintendo had a pretty solid plan the whole time. I think the situation around Zelda's marketing comes down to the mystery that Nintendo allowed all of us to feel for almost 4 years, again, since the game was first revealed at E3 back in 2019. And I know sometimes it probably feels really crazy to be reminded of the fact that it's been that long, but it has been that long, almost 4 years. And the fact that it took us 3 years to get the title of the game really says a lot about what Nintendo was trying to accomplish. Now, for a lot of people, this was obviously very frustrating, and I do understand. Myself, as a huge Zelda fan and a huge fan of Breath of the Wild, I think it's one of the top 10 best games I've ever played. I was really excited at the idea of the sequel. I was super stoked when it was first revealed in 2019. And yes, I obviously wanted to know a lot more about the game throughout the past few years when we did barely know anything about it. And so obviously the question becomes, why did Nintendo allow this game to be such a mystery for so long? And why did they wait until just now, basically the last 3 or so weeks, to give us a huge chunk of gameplay as well as an actual real story trailer that let everyone understand the true scope of the game and why it's going to be a massive adventure that is worthy of being called a sequel to Breath of the Wild and not just $70 DLC. So for myself, when I analyze the situation and I follow Tears of the Kingdom from the reveal in 2019 through the teasers and trailers scattered throughout those couple of years, to, like I said, the past 3 or 4 weeks when we've finally seen the 10 minutes of gameplay and now this new trailer, it's pretty apparent to me that Nintendo knew exactly what they were doing the whole time, and I don't think that they were necessarily winging it, because I do think that a lot of folks, especially those who've been really frustrated by the whole marketing situation and the silence around Tears of the Kingdom for so long, I think that maybe they think Nintendo wasn't quite sure what was going on and they maybe didn't have a clear plan in place for how they wanted to market the game and reveal details and show gameplay and confirm the story and the title and the release date, that maybe they were flying by the seat of their pants, so to speak. And to be fair, maybe that's partly true, especially in the beginning, after the game was first revealed. Maybe 2019 and 2020, maybe even parts of 2021, that might have been true. Just speculating here. None of us really know. But I think that if I was to guess, by the time 2021 was wrapping up and 2022 was playing out, I'm willing to bet that Nintendo had a pretty good focus of what was happening with that game, when it was going to be done, and how they were going to want to really market and reveal the game, which was why at the end of 2022, even though that was initially supposed to be the release year, so obviously things do change along the way, and so Nintendo did say it was 2022, then they had to delay it a year to this year. I think that as 2022 was wrapping up, they were like, okay, we know when we're going to be able to release this game. It's going to be spring 2023. So I think it was the September 2022 Direct, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But I think that was when they revealed the title and the release date, Tears of the Kingdom, and May 12th, 2023. And by that time, I think Nintendo knew exactly what they were doing, and they were ready to release specific, significant info at a specific time. And of course, this year introduced the $70 price thing, which is obviously a very divisive topic, and I've talked about it numerous times. We had the leak of the art book, which I've seen, and I thought it was very cool. I don't think it spoiled a whole lot, but that was obviously also a big deal for a lot of people. And then we had the fact that people still felt like they didn't see enough of this game to understand why it was a sequel, why it was going to be different than Breath of the Wild, and why it was also going to be $70. And I mean, like I said, I've talked about that before. I don't mind buying the game at that price, but I think the Switch is the wrong platform to test that price, so you've heard me talk about that before. I don't want to go into it anymore. But the $70 thing, as well as the mystery around the gameplay and story, especially in 2023 specifically, added so much fuel to the fire of this conversation about people concerned that Nintendo wasn't showing a lot about the game, possibly because it wasn't going to be very good, or it wasn't really going to justify itself as a true sequel to Breath of the Wild. I think this 10 minutes of gameplay and this newest trailer being released between their last big game and now only a month before the game comes out shows us that they knew they wanted to wait until maybe not the 11th hour, but they wanted to wait until they were within that specific 4 or 5 week window to really start throwing all of the goods at us. And it's obviously working because after the gameplay and after this last amazing trailer, even some of the biggest naysayers have come around and realized this game is going to be amazing. It's going to be the sequel we want it to be. It looks epic and it's going to be incredible. Something that a lot of the people who have been frustrated around Nintendo's marketing or lack thereof for Zelda have to remember is that especially in 2023, once we hit the new year and we were in the year of Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo still had other games releasing on the Switch and other games to market. I don't know why so many people kind of forget that. They had to focus on Fire Emblem. They had to focus on quite a few other games. And it's just like with Pikmin 4, for example. Pikmin 4 is a game they're not going to really start promoting until after Tears of the Kingdom releases, okay? The marketing cycle and the promo hype for Pikmin 4, even though it's not even anywhere near the tier of a Zelda game, that is going to pick up after Zelda releases. And I think Zelda, even though it's one of the biggest franchises in the gaming industry, I think Nintendo is still following that same train, right? They wanted to wait until some of their biggest games early on in the year released, and then it was time to move on to really promoting their biggest game. Imagine if we reversed the trailers, and this last trailer we just got, the most incredible trailer almost ever we've seen for a video game. Imagine if this was the one that first was released back in 2019, or whenever Nintendo would have announced the game. Let's say they announced it in like 2021 maybe, and this was the first trailer they would have showed. Now, we all would have loved it. We all would have been blown away. We all would have been extremely hyped for the game. But what do you do to follow that up? To me, a trailer like this, very similarly to the last trailer for Breath of the Wild, which was released in January of 2017, just a couple of months before that game came out, this is the perfect trailer to end your marketing on. This is the final stamp. This is the exclamation point to your sentence that says this game will be badass. Prepare yourself. So as a first trailer, it would have been fine, but all of the other stuff following it maybe wouldn't have had the same impact. Instead, Nintendo chose a very short, vague, cinematic type reveal back in 2019, and then a couple of slight teasers that were kind of increasing the scope of the game and kind of revealing little bits of gameplay. Maybe not as much as we wanted at that time, I agree, but they were slowly revealing more and more with each trailer across the past 4 years. And then the gameplay, and then this final trailer, this is the last thing, almost for sure, we will see and experience before actually playing the game in a month. I mean, hype is at an all-time high because they built up to a trailer this epic and this incredible. And I think this was their design for a long time. Even if the release date was shifting around, I think they knew that they were going to end their marketing cycle a month to two before the game was going to release with a gameplay reveal and then the most epic trailer they can make. They knew what they wanted to do. I think it was the secret brilliance of this campaign, and they waited for games like Fire Emblem and whatnot to release first. And then it's like, let's drop this trailer and change everyone's mind about Tears of the Kingdom. It's interesting when you compare Tears of the Kingdom's marketing to Metroid Prime 4's. And you could argue that maybe Nintendo shouldn't have revealed the game when they did because it took so long for the game to come out and so long for us to see significant details. Again, if you track the June 2019 reveal with basically almost a nothing teaser, it was great, but it was just like some cinematic moments and that's it. And then it took, until what, September 2022. So summer 2019, fall 2022, over 3 years, before they finally even told us the name of this game and gave us an actual release date and showed us more significant gameplay. That's a long time for people to wait and wonder what's going on with the game. So I think you could argue that maybe Nintendo did reveal the game too early in 2019. Maybe that wasn't the smart choice. And I don't really mind that they did, but I think that there is a case to be made. Maybe they should have waited and revealed the game in 2021. Because your 2021 to 23 wait time of 2 years, that wouldn't have been so bad. If we had 2 or 3 trailers in that amount of time, that would have been great. But instead we had 4 years, not 2 years. But again, let's compare this directly to Metroid Prime 4. Now, we know there are some unique factors to Metroid Prime 4's development, which does change the way we maybe look at the the marketing and the release timing and everything around Metroid Prime 4, right? And to be fair, there's been no marketing, just the first trailer. And we, of course, know they had to reboot the game and change developers 2 years in, and so it's just a whole messy thing there. But if you look at Metroid Prime 4, it was revealed 6 years ago in 2017, and since then, other than the update about the reboot in 2019, we've seen nothing about that game. Now, do I believe that if they didn't have to reboot the game in 2019 and give it back to Retro Studios for them to restart development, do I believe if that didn't happen that we would have seen more about the game by now? Absolutely. I do think that the first 2 years of this game's development are a wash. I think, and I've said it a lot recently, the version of the game of Metroid Prime 4 we will eventually play is not the game that started development in 2017 that they announced in 2017. It is the game that was rebooted in 2019 and handed to Retro Studios as a brand new project, probably almost from scratch. But still, here's the thing. Right now, it's been 4 years since the reboot happened in 2019 with Retro Studios. 4 years since Prime 4 started with Retro. 4 years since Tears of the Kingdom was first revealed in 2019. Look at the difference of these development cycles, right? In 2019, when that game was revealed, we've seen many teasers and trailers throughout the past 4 years building up to this last trailer for Zelda. Metroid Prime 4, I think it's going to be one of the greatest games of all time, but even since the reboot 4 years ago, they've shown us nothing. Now, they did release another Metroid game, so credit where credit is due. Metroid Dread still released, okay? So we got a Metroid game to play, not the same situation with Zelda. I mean, we got Link's Awakening Remake, and we got Hyrule Warriors, so I guess that's something. But again, 4 years of Tears of the Kingdom, we had plenty of teasers and trailers. 4 years of Metroid Prime 4 since the reboot, nothing, nada, zilch, silence. And so I think I bring up this comparison to say, is it frustrating that Nintendo kind of was a little bit mysterious about Zelda for so long and they made us wait longer than they probably wanted for information and a release date? Yes. But if you make a direct comparison to one of their other biggest games, Metroid Prime 4, which you guys know will be like one of my favorite games ever, I think we can see the difference, and it shows that I think Nintendo was much more prepared with Zelda. I think that even if some things changed behind the scenes, because developing a game, just like making a movie or whatever, it's an organic process and things will organically change on a case-by-case, day-by-day scenario behind the scenes. But I think they had a general roadmap of we can reveal the game around this time with a teaser, we can smatter a couple of other teasers and trailers and gameplay throughout the following years, and at about this time, we'll do gameplay. And at about this time, we'll reveal a title, and yada yada, and then the game will release. So they had a bit of a roadmap that I think they've been following. And more importantly, as I was saying in the beginning, to kind of wrap up my thesis statement in this conversation, I think that they knew that they wanted to save the biggest and best and juiciest portions of marketing for the final home stretch, which, like I said in the beginning, was Aonuma's 10-minute gameplay a few weeks ago, and then this last incredible trailer a few days ago. These were the home stretch pieces of marketing that they knew were going to have the biggest impact, not 4 years ago when the game was revealed, not 2 years ago when it was halfway through development, but right now, 1 month before the game releases. I think this was their plan. I think it's brilliant. I think it's working out perfectly. A lot of people may disagree and think that Nintendo's been fumbling and bumbling around behind the scenes. And I guess that's possible. They're not perfect. No company is perfect. But to me, this whole situation reads like they knew what their general roadmap was. They followed it very well. And like I said, hype now, 3.5 weeks before the game releases, is at an all-time high because the last thing they showed us was one of the greatest video game trailers we've ever seen. I think the situation awound? I think the situation awound